Hey guys, today is Monday, March 22nd, 2021, and we're just doing a quick video here about the news over the weekend about Erin O'Toole and the Conservative Party pretty much having a open rift about whether climate change exists or not. So the statement here, O'Toole was given a keynote speech and he said, "We cannot ignore the reality of climate change. The debate is over." Now they put up a motion saying that we recognize that climate change is real. This would have been added to the party's policy book. So it would say we recognize climate change is real, number one. And then number two, the Conservative Party is willing to act. And the resolution would have also added language calling on highly polluting businesses to do more to reduce their emissions and, quote, be accountable for the results. And the Conservatives would support innovation in green technologies. So this all sounds like kind of general language, but this would be stuff that very much would be kind of the conservative play, I would say, to liberal voters, people who, they believe in climate change, but they don't necessarily want to pay the carbon tax because, taxes are never popular. And that's an easy sticking point for the conservatives to always jab to the liberals. But nevertheless, the party voted down this motion. Believe it was pretty close. It was like 54-46 or something like that. But they voted it down. And the consequences of that, I think the polling shows obviously the Conservatives need to do something different if they want to shake up polling before the election. But I would say not all is lost necessarily because, the election still could be as much as a year away from now. And the other option is that, the Conservatives won the popular vote last time. So this is the 2019 election here. They did win the popular vote, and they were the only party that advocated for not putting a tax on carbon, But at the same time, we got to look at the realistic thing here that that's only 34% of the country there. Every other Canadian, pretty much, like we're not going to count Maxime here, but every other candidate on this list supports a price on carbon, and that's like 2/3 of the country. So right off the bat, I would say that creates a ceiling. If people really care about the climate issue, you could debate that, but I would say the 2019 election especially did revolve around this issue on climate a lot. And Justin Trudeau did not have he had kind of a trying to please everyone approach that didn't really work so well because, people on the left can easily criticize him for not being strong enough and his support of pipelines. And obviously people in Alberta will not vote for this man based on all of the results that we've seen in the past election. Alberta and Saskatchewan were pretty isolated. These are just 2011 results here. I'm going to come back to this because this is really the only time I think in which the United Conservative won a majority of all ridings. And when I say United Conservative, I mean since Stephen Harper united the party in the early 2000s. But yeah, let's go over here. These are the latest polls, and this is the indication here that things need to change for the Conservatives because all these other parties here, they support a price on carbon. They believe in climate change, They might have different approaches to getting it, but at least we know where they all stand. The Conservatives are kind of playing this game. Now we know that, on a policy basis, they don't think climate change is real. I'm sure there's plenty of Conservatives who do think climate change is real and oppose this motion. Clearly it was close. But the fact is the Conservatives have an uncertain policy on climate, whereas all these other parties, we know where they stand, and we know how the Canadians have voted on these parties in the past. Now, that to be said, Liberal Party has gone up in the latest polling by a little bit here. We got a 6-point gap here between Liberals and Conservatives. So yeah, this puts the seat projection pretty much right at the majority here. And I always think this is a low ball usually. So I would say it's more than likely the Liberals would get a majority in this scenario right now. Yeah, so 51% chance, Yeah, regional breakdown here. Let's do this real quick. So you see they've stepped ahead in Quebec a little bit more. They've widened the margin in Ontario. This is the one I think where the climate change really matters is BC. So BC, there is conservative support in BC, obviously, but I would also say there's a lot of people in BC, they have particular attention to nature conservation and the issue of pipelines is especially a hot issue in BC. I think there's a lot of people who, they were hoping to have a reason to vote for the Conservative Party a little bit in terms of climate that might be disappointed from this news. And it shows here that the NDP and Conservatives, they're 27-27, Liberals at 32. This is, I would say this is kind of good news for the Liberals, but obviously, very close in BC. Don't know how this is going to come out. The Conservatives, I was saying in a previous video, I would like to, well, not that I'd like to, but if they're going to win, they got to win like these outskirts of BC as well. This is the 2011 majority map here. No bias here, but if they win BC like this, and they win Alberta like this, and they get into Toronto a lot more like this, where we actually see them breaking into the actual old city of Toronto. I think this is maybe North York here, but you see, this is what has to be done if you're a Conservative and you want to win, is that you have to come in here. And so why did Stephen Harper do so well here? Well, part of the reason is, 2011 election had different things going for it. First of all, being that the Liberal candidate was very unpopular, lost a lot of seats, and the NDP candidate was quite popular indeed, and he represented my old riding of Toronto Danforth. But nevertheless, Jack Layton did a great job in Quebec, in these other provinces, basically shut out the Liberal Party everywhere. The Conservative Party, though, able to win easily in these rural areas, able to split the difference downtown, make all these big wins. Now, the right thing that I think Erin O'Toole has done is that he's matched Stephen Harper's ability to not wade into these social issues. So issues like abortion, issues like same-sex marriage, that kind of stuff is like, to a Liberal campaign, that is like gold in terms of attacking Conservatives and that kind of stuff, It's better that, Stephen Harper, he never touched those issues when he was Prime Minister. I believe there was a private member's bill sometime, I think it was when the Conservatives were in majority government, though. They had a private member's bill trying to put a definition on when life begins, right? Or even to study the issue, right? And Stephen Harper himself voted against that motion. So that just goes to show you, Stephen Harper himself, maybe he was personally pro-choice. I think he was. But he knew that, issues like this, they don't play too well with the areas where Conservatives need to win, which again is honestly around these suburbs in Toronto, around here, you see here Kitchener-Guelph, all this stuff. This is what Conservatives need to do in order to actually win elections. These are going to go no matter what. And this issue on climate change, I think it hurts them here in BC, it hurts them in Ontario and the GTA, and it hurts them in Quebec. Even though we don't expect Conservatives to win very much in Quebec, they still need to have a good amount of seats in Quebec. But, one of the attractive things of the Bloc Québécois for people is that, they believe in climate change and they do support a tax on carbon. But, Quebec voters are very unique, so, they'll go with the identity issues that the Bloc Québécois brings up, and the fact that they also believe in climate change and a tax on carbon and, environmental regulations is kind of a bonus. So I really think that the Conservatives, they got to get on the same page here. It may not be the end of the world, though. It could be a whole year until the next election. Climate change was a big issue in the last election, but obviously this election will have bigger issues to do with COVID. So depending on how vaccine rollout goes and all that stuff, we could be dealing with a different situation by the end of the year. But right now, Liberals are basically solidifying their lead over the Conservatives, and the Conservative infighting is certainly not helping with that. And that is my opinion. Well, that's my assessment of the facts. Thank you so much for listening.